Hey there! I do a lot of kit bashing and I want to show you one thing that really made my life heaps easier and which made kit bashing much more of a joy. So that's something I want to show you today. And it's about sawing and cutting, basically. So if you have a model like this, so this is a plastic Chaos Cultist by Games Workshop. And you want to remove parts of it, but you still want to be able to use those parts. I mean, if you just want to get rid of a part, you can hack it away or scrape it away bit by bit. But then the part that you're getting rid of is just going to be splinters. You'll never be able to use that. But say that I want to remove this hand, but also still be able to use that hand. That's going to be a bit tough with a sharp blade. You have to put a lot of pressure on your blade. You have to start moving it around, and that's not only going to show on the model in the end because you're going to make mistakes, but it's also actually a bit dangerous because the blade can slip away and instead of cutting the model, cut your finger or whatever, which happened to me quite a lot in the past. I cannot recommend that. So there's better ways to do it, so to say. And especially if you also go to metal models. So this is metal. You're not going to cut it basically with a knife. So that's never going to work. And what I used to do before was this one. This is one of my oldest tools that I ever bought for miniatures, which is simply a saw, like a hobby saw. And it works very well, but, it works very well both for metal and for plastic. The blade is quite thin, so you can make thin cuts. And yeah, it works, but the thing is, it's heavy and it's big. So if you have a small model, you need to be able to get the blade in such a way through the model that you can still maneuver. And as the blade is so thin, it also snaps from time to time, which is not a very big problem because you can just reattach it with these two screws. But it's not ideal. But the sawing, yeah, it goes pretty well. You can just start hacking away. Take some practice as well. And once you get a start, oh, the whole thing moves. You will go even through metal quite quickly, and the cut is not huge. I mean, it takes away some thickness of the model, but not loads. So this is one option. But yeah, it's a bit hard to maneuver simply because it's so heavy. A bit more recently, I found these guys, and these are sold by a lot of companies. Games Workshop has them too. I think these are from Tamiya. Which are also hobby saws, but then just a blade with very sharp teeth. And these will also work for plastic and metal. You'll need a holder for it, which can be like a brand one or a cheapo, doesn't really matter, as long as it holds the blade and you can use it to start sawing. These will also work on both metal and plastic, but the thing is, the blade is actually quite thick. It's thicker than this one. This one will make a thinner cut than these blades. So that makes it harder to make a cut that's less noticeable. I mean, as I said, if I want to cut off his hand over here, I'll start cutting, but I will cut off actually a big piece of his hand. And if I want to reattach then this hand to a different model, I will be missing a part of the hand, which is not a big problem because I can still pin it and then glue it and then green stuff the difference. But it's easier if I could just make a very thin cut. So, well, I can show that it works. I mean, you can just start hacking, and it even feels quite rough to saw with this one. It's fast, gives you a lot of debris, but it gives a nice cut. It's still a bit of a rough cut as well. I mean, there's some, but it works. I mean, if you just need to get a quick cut done to remove some stuff, this is no problem at all. It works like a charm. It's very sharp. You also have the thinner version if you need to reach thinner spots if you want. But then there is something else, and that is this one. And this one, you already see the problem with it, but I'll come back to that. This one is amazing. It's the thinnest blade ever. You get it in a pack like this. So this is from Tamiya again. Fine craft saws. And they call these thick bladed, but there's, compared to this one, there's nothing thick bladed about it. So you get them as a sheet, which you can just unpack. So you get this beautiful, extremely thin sheet of metal. They even have thinner versions, because as the label said, this is the thick blade. But it's absolutely thin. It's does it say what size? Yeah, 0.15 millimeters, I guess. So that's more than good enough for cutting models. And what you do is you can simply snap them off the grid. And the idea of this is that if you have very thin metal, it will be very sharp by itself, simply by the fact of that it's hard and thin. And then what they also did is they etched saw teeth into these. And these are really amazingly sharp. So don't pull your finger over it, because you'll cut yourself up good. I can say from experience. So you fold them double, then you have the saw, and you can put them in the same holder. You need at least for the Tamiya ones, you really need a Tamiya holder, because the other ones are. I tried it out with a cheapo, but the holder is not deep enough to accommodate the holder, and if you start sawing, the blade will bend very quickly. So get a good handle tool. So here, this is it. This is the thinnest, sharpest saw I ever met in my life. So what you do is you just put it in on the spot where you want, and start sawing without using any pressure on the blade. So that's actually true for any kind of saw, but it's something that you will forget easily if you have a thick bladed saw. But this one, really do not use any pressure at all, if you can avoid it. I mean, sometimes it's necessary, especially if you start sawing metal, because these will also saw metal without any problem, but it just takes longer. Once you get through the hand, this is taking a long time. Come on. You can see what I mean. The cut is completely smooth, so there's no problem in attaching anything new. You don't really have to file it or anything, sand it. Sorry, filing is something else. And if I put it back together, you can see that the cut is actually so thin that you're not missing that much that much material. So you can remove components without actually losing anything of either side. I mean, you will always lose a bit, but it's really not much. So it's beautiful, and yeah, you can just cut off anything that you like with these saws. If you yeah, I can just remove his leg. I don't know, maybe I just want to give him a bionic leg in the future. Or maybe I just want to use that leg for a different model. You can just saw around the bottom of his cloak. I need to get it clear here as well. And what I usually do is I saw around so I don't completely saw through usually, because you cannot always reach all the places that you need to cut. So usually I just go around from all sides until I'm clear from the surface, and then I start feeling whether I can snap it off. And that way it also allows you to follow the cloth will not always be straight, so it will have a curvature, and if you do it bit by bit, you can also follow that curvature better, so that you get an even cleaner cut. There we go, that's it. And as you can see, I now have a knee which is still perfectly usable. No problem there, and the cloth is jacket is very nicely straight cut off, and I can just clean this up with a sharp knife to make it into a clean surface, and then start building a bionic leg onto it. Yeah, beautiful. And I also showed you this one because this is what is going to happen. Especially if you by mistake put pressure onto the blade. And I'm not a stranger to that, as you can see. I mean, it's very thin, so it will first wobble and then it will bend, simply because it gets stuck and you keep pushing, and then it just bends. And it's not a big problem. I mean, I can just still use this blade fine, but it will after a while it will not be usable anymore, because it's just too crooked. And what also happens is after that much use, it will start breaking here, just because of metal fatigue. It will start breaking here, and then the whole blade will fall off. So you can use it a long time, but it's not as durable as the thick one. I mean, this one I can basically use forever until the teeth get dull. Which, if you only cut plastic, will not be quickly. I mean, if you start cutting metal, it will be faster, of course. But with this one, this will never break, basically, if I just cut miniatures. And this one will, these thin ones. So it will, yeah. They're not infinitely usable. And the other thing there is that they're not cheap either. I mean, you can buy a pack like this with 4 saws for, what was it, 15 euros or something, which is not extremely expensive, but it's a throwaway product in the end, right? You can use it a couple of times and then it's a disposable. So for a disposable, I think it's kind of expensive, but for the use that you get out of it, I don't think it's a big problem. And you can also, they have different packs. So these are the thick bladed ones. You also have thinner bladed ones, and you have these are with the long blades too. This is very useful for terrain, especially this big one, if you want to cut up buildings or floorboards or whatever. It's very nice to make straight, thin cuts. But there's also packs with six blades with the smaller blades. So if you're just interested in cutting up miniatures, then I would recommend getting one of those, because you simply get more saws for your money. And then finally, to prove that you can also cut metal with it, I'll just cut this guy's head off with my saw. And as you can see, I have to put a bit more pressure on it, and because the blade's already bent a couple of times, you can now see the way it's bending. Is it visible on camera? Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, so if you see that happening, you know that you're putting too much pressure, but this blade is already a lost cause, so to say, so it doesn't really matter for me. I mean, I used to do this with that big handsaw that I showed at the start, which is fine, and which might even be better for these kind of jobs. But as I said, you cannot reach every place that you would like with the big saw. Yeah, there we go. That's it. So, beautifully smooth cut on both sides. Metal is no problem for these beautifully laser etched saws. That's it, people. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something new. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. See you soon. Bye.